We are grateful for your presence here. And now it's over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Emanuela. Thank you all. Thank you, Laudato Si Action Platform, for the opportunity to discuss a topic that is very important to my PhD research. I would like to greet the colleagues on the webinar. It's an honor to share this moment of dialogue and learning with you. And I want to thank the Economy of Francesco for supporting my research, for providing a space of fraternity and friendliness, both for intellectual exchanges with other researchers and for fighting against inequalities and social injustice. Please, can you next step? First of all, we need to understand what just transition means. The term just transition is commonly associated with the idea of guaranteeing and creating decent and quality jobs in climate transition process. That is, adaptation and mitigation to climate change must be backed by reducing the relative costs to the most vulnerable workers. Therefore, protecting more fragile workers throughout the climate transition process is what makes the climate transition just, ensuring the efficiency gains do not occur at the expense of less qualified workers. To have an idea of the importance of human capital qualification in the climate transition, according to the World Bank, human capital represents 64% of global wealth. But with the climate change, there may be an increase in the vulnerability of less qualified workers. Thus, adaptation practices and mitigation must come coupled with policies for the quality of the world of work. Please, next step. Next slide. The term just transition is not new. Historically, international documents and movements marking cross-border agreement throughout the 20th century already pointed to the need to reconcile economic growth, environmental preservation, and social inclusion. The International Labour Organization, moreover, created the Just Transition Framework, institutionalizing the need to align the climate transition with the world of work. Please, next slide. It's important to emphasize that a just transition does not depend solely on labor. Green technologies, often incremental to production process, are one of the factors that must be combined with workforce upskilling. The kind of relationship between technologies and labor will be the key factor determining whether the climate transition is just or not. Green technologies tend to be highly absorptive of skilled work labor, and therefore there are estimates such as those present in the work of Professor Stiglitz and Danny Hodrick that the number of green jobs to operate green technologies will increase. So, green technologies can exclude low-skilled workers. That is why it will be necessary to reskill and train workers to be integrated into low-carbon productivity sectors. There are estimates that new jobs will be created by demand for new infrastructures, new technologies, and new green business models. But we still need to have qualified workers for this in developing countries. Therefore, we can view a just climate transition as an opportunity for economic development, but this will require substantial action by economic agents and by public and private investment policies. Please, next slide. Before we move on to real and current examples of just transition practices, it's important to understand what quality of labor is and what is this increase in labor quality necessary for this climate transition to be just. When we talk about labor quality, it's important to keep in mind that there are two approaches that address this concept. The first is the subjective approach that focuses on the overall quality and well-being perceived by the worker, aligned with the concept of quality of working life or quality of work. Quality of working life is a broad concept encompassing individuals' subjective perceptions and their value systems about their jobs. For this reason, some authors criticize this subjective approach, stating that it can be laden with perception biases. On the other hand, the objective approach is generally related to labor attributes or labor quality, just like education, skills, experience, which can be simply expressed by the quality of labor. Many works include in the objective concept of labor quality the employment dimension, the quality of job, since attributes such as wage and contractual conditions directly shape the labor productivity. Therefore, to avoid subjective biases, my research focuses on the labor quality and the job quality in the structural transformation of industry toward a just climate transition. Please, next slide. It's important to say that I'm referring to the quality of industrial labor in undeveloped countries, whose levels are very low and accompany low or stagnant labor productivity. One of the main challenges for increasing labor quality in these countries and the consequent promotion of just transition is upskilling the workforce with competencies for the climate transition, that is, investment in green skills. According to the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, there are 4 types of green skills, which are engineering and technical skills, scientific skills, operational and management skills, and monitoring skills. Note that all these skills are required skills require investments in education and training of professionals, and they are mostly hard skills. What the world of labor in undeveloped countries need to make the climate transition just is professionals with green hard skills covering competencies involved in design, construction, and evaluation of technology. These jobs are general formal, which combats high informality and precariousness in the labor market. In industry, commerce, and services, green skills are fundamental to adapt process and products to the demand of ESG policies and environmental regulation. Please, next slide. A major challenge for developing countries in achieving a just transition is that the workforce is at a very low quality of work level. practically stagnant or at a low level, and this is reflected in the labor productivity indicators. But how to overcome this challenge? In- Increase investment in workforce quality is certainly one of the ways. As professors Stiglitz and Hodrick point out, this climate transition can be an opportunity for countries to invest in workforce training and achieve structural transformation. Of course, structural transformation does not depend only on investment in skills and technologies, but these are factors that have remained at a very low levels for decades in developing countries. This investment in workforce training and green technologies should come from both public and private sources. Therefore, policy planning and the combination of fiscal, industrial, and social policies are fundamental to the effectiveness of a just transition. The right incentives must be designed to create synergies across economic sectors, mobilize the labor force, and develop economies based on integral ecology, as Pope Francis has taught us. The challenge lies in designing public and private investment policy in developing countries. Often, there is a mismatch between macroeconomic policies and industrial policies. Proof of this are Brazil's high interest rate that discourage productive industrial investment. Despite this mismatch, it's important to highlight the crucial role of national development banks in promoting a just transition, since they facilitate credit, equipment importation, and capital to qualify the workforce in these countries. Please, next slide. Um, there are several examples of just transition projects being implemented today, but I highlight the new project in Brazil's Amazônia Legal to support job creation, expand renewable energy production, and reduce energy costs in one of the most ecologically significant regions in the world. The project will contribute to the creation of quality jobs, expand access to reliable electricity for more than 1 million residents currently without basic energy services, and support the Amazon in attracting investment and consolidating its participation in the growth and the growing global clean energy economy. Amazônia Legal covers 9 states and nearly 60% of Brazil's territory. Despite its size and natural wealth, the region has historically been left behind. With the International Labour Organization projecting 15 million new clean energy jobs in Latin America by 2013. This project positions Amazônia Legal to claim its share of the opportunity. Total investment is $627.75 million, composed by 100 million loan from the World Bank, 400 million in counterpart funding from the Brazilian government, 125 million in commercial financing, and 2.75 million grant from the Energy Sector Management Assistance Program for technical assistance. The operation will be implemented through Banco da Amazônia, which is a state bank in Brazil, which will channel resources to private developers and power utilities working to transform the region's energy matrix. Please, next slide. Finally, I hope my brief presentation has managed to raise awareness of the importance of just transition and the upskilling of the workforce in developing countries. A just climate transition means pursuing climate adaptation and mitigation with social equity at the center. We cannot adopt green technology or complete the energy transition without considering the people who drive and are affected by these changes. Whether in renewable energy projects, ESG-driven business models, or industrial decarbonization efforts, the climate transition must be leveraged to reduce social
We are
inequalities
grateful for your presence here.
to, I'm finishing, to prevent both climate and social crisis. Central to this is the labor market. The transition requires better workforce quality through increased public and private investment to create more formal jobs, provide living wages, and strengthen workers' skill and knowledge. Please, next and fine. Thank you very much for listening. I'm sorry for the time. Once again, I thank to Laudato Si platform for the invitation, and I make myself available to talk about the topic. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Tatiana, for your very interesting presentation. We are on time. So now let me introduce with pleasure Adriana Gomez Chico Spammer, Economy of Francesco Scientific Committee. For over 20 years, she has collaborated with organizations and companies in the social and solidarity economy, promoting cooperation with civil society, private companies, academia, and governments. Since 2024, she has served as the coordinator of the Promoting Group for the Social Economy, an interinstitutional space that advocates for the social economy as a productive approach to reducing poverty and inequality. She is an academic advisor at the International Research Center for Social and Solidarity Economy and a member of the Scientific Committee of the Economy of Francesco, among others. She holds a degree in economics, master's in socioeconomic evaluation of investment projects, a master's in social economic business management, and is currently pursuing a PhD in economic and administrative science. Adriana, thank you for being here with us today, and now we'll listen to your presentation.
Thank you, Emanuela.
Can you? Okay, yes, we can see you. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's fine. Thank you, and thanks to the Laudato Si Action platform for the kind invitation to this webinar. And thank each one of you for your participation and interest in these topics. It's really good to be here. I chose the title for this presentation because I'm convinced that the social and solidarity economy is indeed a response to the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor, especially as it is experienced in many rural and marginalized communities in Latin America. It is one possible response among others, a response that is already a reality, but not yet everything it can become. An effective response, but also one that does not answer or solve everything everywhere. Social and solidarity economy deals, if you go to the next slide, please, deals at the same time, sometimes in tension, with the territory and core values that are at its basis and the market systems where its enterprises operate. Organizational and territorial governance make it possible. Social and solidarity economy can be described much deeper and in multiple ways. If you go to the next one, I will just say that social and solidarity economy enterprises are alternative models of doing economy at the service of people and their well-being. The next one, please. Doing economy means producing, distributing, consuming, and allocating all kinds of resources for this, which includes investment and typically for these models, reinvestment. The next one, the principles and values at the core of the social and solidarity economy can also be expressed in different ways. In this case, they are enlisted as 6, and I will only highlight a few aspects of them. Equality means recognizing equal dignity and rights of all individuals, as well as ensuring participation, access to information, and transparency. Work is more than employment. It is acknowledged as central to quality of life and social inclusion. This is translated into participation in decision-making and ownership. Work is more valued than equity or capital. Environmental sustainability is not just an accessory. As you, as part of the Laudato Si Action platform, very well know, economic activity and nature are interdependent in our common home. Social and solidarity economy is based on cooperation within and beyond organizations, locally and internationally. The driver is mission or purpose. Are social and solidarity economy enterprises for profit? I say it is the other way around. Profit is for them. Profit is for them to achieve their purpose. The question about profit is one thing that brought me to the economy of Francesco. It made me join specifically one of the villages, vocation and profit. The experience coming from social and solidarity economy has been a gift to our reflections, but also the understanding of profit built within the village has been a gift for my work in the field of social and solidarity economy. Last but not least, social and solidarity economy cannot be understood without a strong commitment to the community. Often poor, marginalized, or vulnerable communities. If you go to the next one, we all know market systems very well. We constantly offer our services or our goods in exchange for income. We buy and consume using our income. We know what competition or competitiveness mean. Social and solidarity enterprises also offer their goods and services to the market, locally, regionally, nationally, sometimes also internationally. They must deal with logistics, marketing, and respond to the demands of the market. But they behave differently. And in doing so, they reshape markets. Social and solidarity economy has distinctive governance and organizational models which translate into structures and principles for the organization, management, and coordination of work within an enterprise. The next one, please. Responsibilities, next one also. Responsibilities and power are distributed while decision-making processes and relationships are shaped according to these structures. These people and cooperation-centered models promote cognitive and autonomous work, participatory management, and the activation of shared knowledge. It is probably hard to picture social and solidarity economy enterprises just listening to concepts and ideas like the ones that I have been sharing about until now. It is necessary to see them incarnated in people, projects, enterprises, but time is short, so I can only talk briefly about one social and solidarity economic group. The next one, please. It is in Chiapas, in the south of Mexico, also located close to my heart, my mind, and only from time to time, my feet and my hands. It is called in Celtal, their indigenous language, Yomolatel, which means together we work, together we walk, together we dream. Local needs and grassroots organization gave birth to the group. The natural and cultural potential is their leverage. They focus on sustainability, efficiency, and growth together and in harmony. They produce, generate income, reinvest, and improve community consumption. They started with coffee, green coffee, selling it together as a group without abusive intermediation. Then they added value to it and offered high-quality agroecological roasted coffee. Then they started their own nicely presented brand of coffee, Capeltic. The next step was to offer coffee in a cup. For that, they opened their own coffee shops. And I know it sounds easy, but it's not. In economics, it is called value chain integration. It is also called FAIR. Sometimes something similar, happened with their honey, with the brand Chaptic. It is also happening with their Chapontic handmade cosmetics and handcrafts, produced by women of the cooperative Jumpajal Otanil, or Harmony of the Heart. They also formed Common Seed Cateltic, a microfinance organization. Nothing romantic in this story. A lot of effort, some failures, many challenges, but still something real, alive, and growing. Many faces, hands, and much more that I would like you to know if we had the time. The next one, please. This is just one example among many. If you're curious enough, but unfortunately only if you also speak Spanish, you can listen to this podcast, Ecos Platicando de Economía Social, and find out throughout the episodes about many other examples of social and solidarity economy. Before finishing, the next one, please. I do have a call for you, and also for me. As I mentioned before, we all know market systems very well. We constantly buy and consume. Are we responsible consumers? Maybe the products coming from social and solidarity economy enterprises are a match to our responsibility. Are they visible to us? That is the goal. To find out about them in our own contexts. We might be able to reshape or redirect part of our consumption. That could be a just transition. Remember what profit means for them. Remember they can be a response to the cry of the poor and the cry of the earth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adriana, for your very interesting presentation. And once again, thank you to the Economy of Francesco for all your work and and for your suggestions, your inputs that lead us to trust that another economy is possible, and we have to fight for that. So thank you very much. And now we arrive to our final speaker today, who is Alberto Brugarola Salvo. Alberto Salvo is an environmental economist and behavioral social scientist at the National University of Singapore. Ongoing projects relate to the public's awareness of climate, biodiversity, plastic crisis, personal environmental accountability, and individual action. He holds a Dean's Chair Award in the Department of Economics at the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, where he teaches environmental economics and policy. Also serves on the university's Sustainability and Climate Action Council, and is the lead principal investigator in the social science at the Bezos Centers for Sustainable Protein. Beyond the National University of Singapore, he is a co-editor of the Journal of the Association of Environmental and Resource Economists and a member of the editorial council at the Journal of Environmental Economics and Management. So, Alberto, thank you for being here and thank you for helping us to reflect more deeply on actions that each one of us can do. The floor is yours, Alberto.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Emanuela. Thank you all for the amazing opportunity to be here addressing this wonderful audience. I will share my screen. Very good. So I follow in the footsteps of Tatiana and Adriana, and I think they talked about the importance of thinking about the worker in the just transition. That was a focus of what Tatiana said. Adriana thinking about that a new, different economy is possible. What I will talk about, which I think is very complementary, is not about a new economy, but about the inner tensions of a worker who's always been an immigrant, who is inserted in the actual economy. And I could even say that this is perhaps a little bit of a personal testimonial. Another thing that's different in my talk is both Tatiana and Adriana have placed their 10 minutes in a setting which is focused on the have-nots, people who are struggling to get by, to upskill, to be inserted in an economy that is focused on people and purpose. What I will talk about is from the viewpoint of the haves, so someone like me, and it will become very clear. So I want to just emphasize that the views that I'll express in these 10 minutes are not those that necessarily my work and spiritual platforms share. So they're up on the right side of my slide, the National University of Singapore. I'm an economist, as Emanuela mentioned. And in terms of, I'm a Catholic, I belong to the parish, the Church of the Holy Cross in Singapore. As I mentioned, I've always been an immigrant. I was born in South America to Spanish parents. I have lived in several continents for extended periods of time. Besides an international family, I'm an academic with an international career, and this is all going to be relevant in my testimonial. I'm a Catholic in terms of faith. And one thing that I want to point out is that Laudato Si is this incredible call for action, this prophetic document that is helping deepen my faith. My faith in including in humans. So we know from the book of Genesis that God created humans in the image and likeness of God. And if it weren't for this evolution within the church, sometimes I would have less faith. So I also remember, when I always think about this, is something that I heard. Some of you might know Lorna Gold. she once mentioned that Laudato Si for her had restored her faith and that it had given her a language and a theology that was transformative. And I really feel when I heard that from her, it resonated with me. So fair to say that I am a top 10% emitter, so top 10% polluter as an individual. So of what? Of climate pollutants that are driving the climate crisis, the biodiversity crisis. I think what is the main aspect of this is that I consume air travel. I travel less today than I used to in the past, but I still travel quite a bit. I no longer eat beef. I was raised in Brazil, which for those who have is a beef eating country. I'm happy that in the last 5 years I've moved away from consuming animal meats. And I live in Singapore, which is an extremely safe and public transport centric country, and I only travel by public transport. So what really is driving me to be a top 10% emitter is air travel, which will be part of my testimonial. At the same time, I'm a citizen trying to take an active role. And that involves in my work, inner conflicts and tensions. So I want to just show you an infographic that comes from this amazing paper by Lucas Chancel. And what it shows on the horizontal axis is different segments of the global population and how much they emit in terms of climate pollutants that are warming the planet and creating a lot of environmental degradation. So the bottom 50% emits 1.4 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent units per year. So someone in the bottom 50% emits 1.4. Those in the middle 40%, so think of this as sort of the middle, emit 6 tons. And those in the top 10%, which is where I think I am, emit something like 30 tons per year per person. I won't talk about the top 1%. So I care deeply about the natural environment and how its degradation is affecting our fellow human species and the non-human species. And I really feel that this care that I feel so deep, it's coming from something above, it's something spiritual. And I love this part of Pope Francis in Laudato Si, and he states, soil, water, mountains, everything is, as it were, a caress of God. And so for me, a dream I have is that one day Catholics won't see themselves as green or non-green, but we'll all see ourselves as, pursuing a discipleship in Christ. And that means we have to take care of our common home, just as we take care of the poor, because those two vocations are part and parcel of the same effort. Pope Leo in October of 2025 in Castel Gandolfo, he had this amazing sentence, which I read very often. And I try and use it in my life. So everyone in society, through non-governmental organizations and advocacy groups, must put pressure on governments to develop and implement more rigorous regulations, procedures, and controls. And citizens need to take an active role in political decision-making at national, regional, and local levels. So the rest of my talk, I'm going to give you an example of how I interpret this call to action at a very local level. And then I'll tell you about a bit about the inner tensions that I face on a day-to-day life. So here's an example coming from, again, the rich world, a world of haves. Mostly there are poor people in Singapore. There is inequality, but on average, people have much more affluence. So this is a very important shopping district. And without naming the store, this is a big flagship store for a very well-known brand. This is an example of I walking along this street, and this is a big store that keeps its doors locked open. So the doors are open. I have a video here just to give an example where I'm trying to shut the doors, and the doors are locked open. The reason, I think, is because it makes it easier for people to walk in. They feel the blast of cold air, and they are kind of invited to go into the store. We're in the tropic. It's very humid and hot. And so what I interpret as a call to action is I go into the store, I call for the store manager, and very important, with a smile on my face, I ask the manager if, in the case it's a he, if he knows about the war in Iran and how oil and gas prices are going up, and whether he has thought of installing a sliding door instead of these doors that are bolted open, just like the Adidas store next door, which has sliding doors. So why do I think this is a small action? Because when we ask policymakers, so in this case, the manager has some control. He can take feedback from customers to his managers and up the chain of command. When we ask questions, we show that we care. So I could give you other examples like this. For example, if you are in mass and the priest in his homily includes something about the care for creation and how we have an obligation to be better stewards of our environment. At the end of mass, you might want to go and talk to the priest and just thank him for inserting care for the creation into the homily or in the prayer of the faithful, and so on. So I'll finish off with an inner negotiation, a tension that I face in my life. So this is an example of a recent trip that I undertook from Singapore. It was a 4-week trip. I spent maybe several months planning this trip so that it would be one long trip. In all, I flew into the US. I went to Miami, Chicago, West Lafayette, then Atlanta. Then I flew out of the US. And on the way back to Singapore, I went down instead of flying over Europe, I landed in Europe, went to Madrid, Rome, Bologna, and Barcelona. So why did I do this? On a personal level, I wanted to spend quality time with my 2 older boys who are in college. During the same trip, I spent time with my mother. As I mentioned, I'm an immigrant. I spent time with my mother, my 3 siblings, and other extended family. I've got 25 plus cousins. And on a work front, I gave 5 research talks. I'm a researcher at a university. I attended a 2-day research workshop, and in all, I spoke to 60 people with extended conversations that are directly relevant to my work. Now, that's the value that this trip had for me. At the same time, when I came back, I calculated what were the emissions of all those flights that you can apportion to the individual passengers. And that works out to 7.6, let's make it simple, 8 tons of CO2 for that 4-week trip. If you remember, 8 tons of CO2 is more than the, let's say, the average person on this planet emits in a whole year. And I want to mention also that this was all an economy cabin. Was the trip worth it to me? For me, it was definitely worth it. Was it worth the trip worth to society? That's not for me to answer. It's a lot of emissions. I don't have much time to go into this, but I want to mention that aircraft, when they fly, they emit not only carbon dioxide, which warms the planet, but they also emit other pollutants that have a very strong warming potential. So as I mentioned, this trip, it was worth it for me. So these are the 9 flights in all that I took. And I don't have time to go through this slide, but this is where I calculate the 7.6 tons of CO2 equivalent from those 9 flights. Could I have reduced my emissions? I could. I could have maybe taken 4 short-haul trips by bus instead of by air. So for example, I could have gone from Miami to Chicago by bus. I didn't. I was pressed for time, but that was a choice that I had. I could have reduced. If I had replaced 4 of the short-haul trips that I took by air, by road transport, that would have reduced my emissions from 7.6 to 6.6 tons. At the same time, not that I would have, but I could have flown in more comfort and style, quote unquote. I could have gone in business class where you have like more space, lie flat seats. You take more space on the plane, you have more apportioned emissions. If I had done those 9 flights on business class, and these are long-haul flights, so business class is a lot of space, my emissions would have gone up from 7.6 tons to 27.7 tons. So as you can see, there are always things you can do down and up. So I'm going to just finish with my final comment. I always get the question, what is the marginal impact from taking another flight? And I won't tell you the answer, but I'll give you 2 polar narratives. So the first narrative at one end of the scale, it's very low on individual accountability. So it's very short horizon. And the narrative goes like this: the plane is taking off anyway. I might as well be on it. Okay, so it's very low on accountability as a person. It's similar to the cow is already dead. I might as well eat the beef. Okay, so on the other end of the narrative, on the polar end, is another narrative which is very high on individual accountability. So it's a longer horizon. And that's one where you think that supply of flights meets demand. And it goes something like this: the more people like me demand air travel, the more resources will be allocated to the sector. So doing a parallel with beef, it's like the more beef I eat, the more cows will be raised and slaughtered. And I'm going to end with my final point. I talked about beef twice. The aside is, what's my beef with beef? And I just want to mention that beef comes from cattle, and cattle are ruminants, and they emit during their lives methane, and methane is a very potent greenhouse gas. And so the climate pollution that comes from 1 kilogram of beef is 5 times larger than what comes from 1 kilogram of chicken. I think many in this call know about that, but if you don't, I just wanted to make this point. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alberto, for your honest and personal reflections, especially your willingness to name the tensions that come with your own lifestyle and position, including what you described as being among the higher global emitters. I'd like to gently hold that alongside what we've heard from our earlier speakers. We've listened to women in Latin America whose daily realities are very different, where ecological responsibility is not a question of choice or lifestyle, but of survival, community, and necessity. The Laudato Si journey looks different for each of us. Some begin from positions of greater access and are invited into deeper reflection and change. Others begin from the margins, already living forms of care and resilience that can learn from. Holding these realities together does not mean comparing or judging them, but allowing them to challenge and call each of us forward in our own context, including the tensions that we each carry. And we do so today together, so no one is left behind. So I know that we are really without any time left. I'm so sorry for that. I saw that there are many questions in the question and answer, and also I'm grateful to those of you who have asked for questions. And yeah, I'm very sorry for that we do not have enough time to make a debate. And so I just have a minute to thank Tatiana, Adriana, and Alberto, our interpreters, our staff behind the scene, and thank everyone for participating in this very wonderful and interesting webinar. As we approach the first year of Pope Francis' passing, we are invited not only to remember him, but to live more deeply the message he entrusted to us, especially for this year's Laudato Si week. So we warmly invite you to join the call and take one concrete action and document it in the Laudato Si action platform. So thank you for being part of today's webinar. We look forward to see you May 23rd at the 2026 Creation Care Commissioning event. And next webinar will be June the 18th at 4 p.m. Rome time. So until then, until seeing each other again, God bless you all. Bye-bye, and thank you so much.